Welcome. We are so glad you're here today for building a design gallery on the Plant Toolbox. We've got Dr. Scott Zona here. He's going to explain the function of the design galleries on the Plant Toolbox, and he's going to show us how they expand and enhance the outreach of demonstration gardens. You're going to see what goes into creating a design gallery and how to get the most out of existing galleries. Scott is the NC State Extension Gardener Plant Toolbox and Online Learning Manager. Welcome, Scott.
Okay, thank you, Raya. I hope my voice holds out. It's not doing its best today. So what I have for you today is to tell you a little bit about how we do the design galleries, how we build them, and show you kind of what goes into them and what they're all about. First of all, I want to talk about what is the Plant Toolbox. I have a feeling I'm preaching to the choir here, but just so that we're all on the same page, let me remind you what it's about. It's a database of plants commonly found in North Carolina gardens. And that means both the cultivated plants and a lot of the common weeds. Some people get all angry at me and they say, well, you're listing this weed in the Plant Toolbox like you're recommending it for gardens. Like, no, we're not recommending it. It's an educational purpose there to show you what these weeds look like so you can recognize them when they're in your garden and take measures to control them if you need to. It includes gardens kind of in the broadest sense of the term. We're talking about managed landscapes of any kind, flower gardens, vegetable gardens, lawns, but we also include house plants and container plants. So all of that we include in the title garden. Let me say a couple things of what the toolbox is not. The toolbox is not an entire list of all the plants native to North Carolina. We have a lot of native plants in the Plant Toolbox, probably about 1,000 native plants in the Plant Toolbox, but that's not all the native plants that occur in the state. It's just those that are commonly cultivated in gardens. And the toolbox is also not a complete and definitive list of all the plants that could possibly be grown in North Carolina. That would be an enormous list, as you might imagine. But as I say, it's things that are commonly cultivated, things that are in the trade, things that you're most likely to run into in a North Carolina garden. So the purpose of the toolbox, of course, is based on that mantra that you always hear, right plant, right place. We want to help consumers select plants that will bring them joy, fulfill their function, and thrive in their gardens. Because we want every garden experience to have a positive outcome. We want homeowners and gardeners to be happy with the plants that they get, and we want those plants to thrive. Now, part of the Plant Toolbox is the design gallery. And the design gallery is to show plants doing their job in the landscape, showing them fulfilling a design function or performing a design role. It's not the individual portrait of a plant. That's for the Plant Toolbox, the various species pages that we have in the Plant Toolbox. That's where you find all the information about the particular species and how to grow it and what it looks like and what sort of, pollinators it attracts. The design gallery is to show those kinds of plants as they are functioning in the landscape, as they work in a landscape. It also shows how plants can work with one another in a landscape. So that's the purpose of the design gallery. And you can get to the design gallery by the button that's on this gray toolbar that goes with you wherever you go in the Plant Toolbox. Click on that and it takes you to the design gallery. Currently, we have 104 gardens in the design gallery. They are individual gardens. They are sometimes just parts of a larger garden. Sometimes they're sort of virtual gardens. In fact, this first one here, the sampling of shade gardens, these are actually kind of single pictures that I had of various shade gardens, and I just combined kind of one virtual shade garden. When we overhauled the design galleries last year and consolidated some things and made a lot of improvements. And all of of those gardens in one picture. I sort of consolidated them here into one shade garden. I also want to draw your attention to this sidebar here on the left. These are filters that you can use to search through the design gallery. Currently, our search function is not as robust as I would like it to be. And we've asked in the next iteration of the software to have a more expanded search function. But at the moment, we do have some capacity for searching. Oh, I went too far. Anyways, this is just the first long list. It goes down the page here. Landscape theme, Asian gardens. It shows 4 gardens that are identified as having the theme Asian garden. Now, the plants in the Plant Toolbox are linked to the design gallery and vice versa. The design galleries link back to the Plant Toolbox pages. And this is, if you're looking at a Plant Toolbox page, this is from there, Yarrow. If you scroll down the page, you'll see this listing where it says, see this plant in the following landscapes. These are all links to various design galleries that we have where you can see this plant, again, fulfilling its design function in a landscape, in a real landscape. Again, not individual portraits of plants, but rather the plants functioning as part of a whole, part of a landscape whole. So back to the design gallery, and I want to mention that there are all those themes. I've condensed them down. You can see we have several various themes: location, design feature, attracts, and you click on the little arrows, and of course it drops down all the various things, the options within that filter. So we can select landscape theme and native garden, and there are 23 gardens in the design gallery that are identified as native gardens. So I'll show you a little bit about how that works a little bit later on. I'll talk about more about these. This is that first garden, that virtual garden sampling of shade gardens. And I just want to show you kind of what's in it. If you haven't looked at the design galleries lately, you may not have seen kind of our new format that we put into place last year. And it sort of standardizes the information that's available in all the design galleries so that it's kind of easier to read, easier to find what you're looking for. So of course we have the name, whether or not the garden is open to the public, the county it's in. Now these of course are all marked various because this is, as I said, this is kind of a virtual garden. It's pictures from various gardens. We're using the 2023 hardiness zones. Remember, a couple of years ago, the USDA made some changes to the hardiness zone map. So we're trying to use the most up-to-date hardiness zones. Whether it's extension demonstration garden, and this is really important. I would love to see all of the state's demonstration gardens in the design gallery. Currently, I think we have about, I should have checked on this. I think we have about 10, which is not many. I'd like to see more. I'd like to see all of them here. Information about when it was established, a little paragraph or two about what to look for. So kind of the highlights of the garden. And then if you get to the very bottom, it says a little bit about the horticulture. So any specialized horticultural treatments, whether you have a deer-proof fence or whether you have an automatic irrigation system, that sort of thing. And then for each photo in the design gallery, we have a lot of information here, and you can see these links here. These are clickable links that take you to that page in the Plant Toolbox. So if we go to one picture, so here's the picture, and this is all the information that comes with that picture. I'm not sure why that's all pixelated there on the Hedera, but well. So it tells you the season that the photo was taken. It gives you the caption, the garden age. In this case, we didn't have an exact age, so we just said it's a mature garden. The photographer and CC license, and I'll have more to say about that in just a minute. And then, as I said, these are various links to pages in the Plant Toolbox. So here's the Amsonia here in the front, and there's Amsonia ciliata is the one that's there, and you click on that, and it takes you to the page on Amsonia Amsonia ciliata. And on the Amsonia ciliata page, there will be a link back to this selection of shade gardens. Now, all this data that kind of comes with each photo, that doesn't happen automatically. That has to be entered when we build these design galleries. All this metadata has to be accounted for. This is the little pop-up page that occurs when I go to add a photo. And so for every photo, I need nine data points, essentially, 9 things. And I want to go over those because, if you want your design gallery, if you want your garden in the design gallery, for every photo you send me, you need to include all these 9 things. So of course, the name of the file is what I chose here. The plants in this photo, this is a drop down. I can select from it. All the plants in the Plant Toolbox are in this menu here, and that's what, gosh, I don't even know what our latest number is. It's well over 5,000. I'm not sure what. So I have to go and select which plants are in this photo from the list. Now, if it's a plant that's not in the Plant Toolbox, we can still mention it, but we have to mention it down here in the caption. It won't be listed here with an automatic link because we don't have the plant. The season, again, drops down the 4 seasons, choose one. The photo, the date that the photo was taken, it doesn't have to be exact. Sometimes just the month and year is sufficient. The garden age at time of photo, and then the alt text. Now, the alt text is an accessibility feature that is required. It's not an option, it's required. And this is a description of the photo that supplements the caption. It should not repeat the caption, but it should be a description of what's in the photo. And currently we're limited to 64 characters, which is really short. It doesn't give us a lot of room to describe photo, but at least we can put something there. And then the caption is next. And again, don't list the plants because they'll be up here in the plants in the photo. Instead, the caption should say what the design feature is being fulfilled, or what design work the plants are doing. This is limited to 256 characters, which is pretty reasonable. We can certainly do a decent caption in 256 characters. And then we go on to attribution and image license. And the attribution, of course, is the photographer. And the photo license is, again, there's a drop down of choices here. These are Creative Commons licenses. And I know a lot of people are sort of a little confused about this or don't really quite know what to do with this. But it's really simple. Really, you just choose the license that you want to impose on your photo. And it's not something you register somewhere with some Creative Commons authority. No, you just pick the license that you want to give that photo at that time, and you state that, and then that's the license it has. Now, the various, 4.0, 3.0, those are iterations that have more to do with kind of the legal power. That's not terribly concerning to us. What's more concerning are the various letters here. And here's what they mean. If it's CC BY, that means that the byline has to be included wherever the photo is used. So the photographer's name has to be included. NC means that only non-commercial use is allowed. A lot of people use the NC license. In fact, I put that on my photos. ND is no derivatives. That means that the photo cannot be cropped, it can't be edited, can't be changed in any way. You have to use the photo exactly as it is. And then SA means share alike, and that means that you have to allow others to use the photo the same way you've used it. So you have to also share it. And the reason we insist upon having Creative Commons licenses is we want people to be able to use these photos. For example, some of our horticulture faculty might be doing a lecture on shade gardens, and they might want to use some of these photos in their slide presentation to illustrate some of these things. So they can go to the Plant Toolbox and to the design galleries, and they can use those photos in accordance with the license. So when I have a design gallery to upload, this is kind of what I want to see. I want to see a folder And in that folder, I want to see the photos, and I want them named in a way that I can figure out what it all means. In other words, you can just name them, you know, numerically, 1, 2, 3, but I prefer not to have a gobbledygook code of alphanumeric code, and I have to kind of study each one to figure out what code is what. It's better to rename your photos and give them a name that is recognizable and usable. And then I need a document file. And in that document file, I need all the information about the garden, whether it's open to the public, the county, the hardiness on all that, what to look for, the horticulture, everything. Furthermore, I need all these choices. Remember I showed you those filters in the left-hand sidebar? These are the choices that are available for the theme, the landscape theme, for the landscape location, for the design feature, what it attracts and resistance to challenges. These are the choices that are available. You can't put your own choices in there. You can't write, it's not a write-in. You have to select from those that are available, and these are the ones that are available. Again, in the next iteration of the design or of the software, we're going to add a little bit more about landscape themes and attractions, other things we'll be adding to these. But currently, these are the choices that we have to work with. And I need you to tell me, what is the design feature? What does it attract? What challenges is it resistant to? That all has to be specified by you. Furthermore, for each photo, remember, I need those 9 points of data. So I've named this Rock Garden April 25. So Rock Garden April 25 is my first photo. There are the plants that are in the photo, and I've not just the species, but in some cases I've included the cultivar. I encourage you to, if you know the cultivar, by all means include it. And I prefer, in fact, I insist on the scientific names. I can't use common names because, as I'm sure all know, lots of plants have the same common name. Common names vary from region to region. Common names are just too slippery. It's best to use the scientific name here. I have the photographer, which is me, my Creative Commons license that I give and everything, which is INC2, the season that photo was taken in, and the age of the garden at the time of the photo. Then I have the caption. This is the caption I want to include. And then I have the alt text. Now, the alt text here is a little bit vague because remember, I only have 64 characters. So it says a rocky slope softened with colorful flowers and attractive foliage. So I am describing what's in the photo. It's sort of a bare minimum, I admit, but as I say, 64 characters were pretty limited. So I have to do that for every photo that's in this folder. And with all that, I can then upload that to the design gallery and build a design gallery. Now I'm going to pause here and I can answer some questions, but what I'm going to do next is I'm going to stop sharing this and I'm going to go ahead and upload those photos and create Scott's Rock Garden as a design gallery in the toolbox. So I can kind of show you in real time what the process is all about. All right, do we have any questions in the chat or anything that's come up at this point?
There is a question in the chat about specific image formats. Yes, are there specific image formats you require?
Yeah, we prefer JPEG or JPG format instead of TIFF. We certainly don't want what is Apple's proprietary one is HQ something, high quality image compression, HQIC. We don't want that format because it has to be converted and that's a extra step of work for me. So just a simple JPEG. In terms of the size, the file size should be right around 800 KB for image size. So I hope that's helpful. Well, shall I go ahead and carry on? So what I've done here is I have a folder, and this is the exact folder that I just showed you in the slideshow. I have a folder of what, 8 photos here,
And
and I have a document. This is the document file that I was showing you in the slideshow. So each of these boldface titles here, this is the name of the file, of the image file that I've included in my folder. And then you see I have all these plant names here. I have the caption, I have the alt text. So I don't know if this is going to be tricky going between because what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a lot of copy and pasting. I'm going to copy this caption, for example, and paste it into the design gallery. So maybe I'll just show you the design gallery. I won't be showing you this page, but this is what I'm working from. You won't necessarily see it, but this is what I'm working from. And this, of course, you all, when you're just using the Plant Toolbox, you don't see all these features because you're not logged in as an administrator, but I am. And so I'm going to create a garden. And creating a garden is creating a garden in the design gallery. So this is what comes up. It's pretty blank. It says you can add images after you've saved this demo garden. So first I have to give it a name, and I'm going to call it Scott's Rock Garden. And it's going to assign, the computer software is going to assign an ID number. And then this is the description. So this is the part where it's going to say the county, the hardiness zone. So I'm going to go over and copy the information I had from that text file that I showed you a few minutes ago. And I'm going to paste it into that box. So I pasted it in here. So I'm going to, because it's not a public, I'm going to delete that. And because it doesn't have a website, I'm going to delete that part. It's got some extra spaces in here, but that's just housekeeping. So I now have the name that is not open to the public. It's Orange County, hardiness 8A, and it's not an extension demonstration garden. Now I'm going to save this, but continue editing. See, now it's been given a garden ID number. Now I can add images. But I'm not done with, before I add the images, I need to do all those, remember those landscape theme, those drop downs. So this is rock garden. So there's rock garden right there. Landscape location, it's a slope and it's a small space. So you can choose more than one in each of these. I'm not going to do all of this, but I'm going to say that it attracts bees, it attracts hummingbirds, and it attracts pollinators, which, by the way, when we use pollinators generally to refer to just kind of everything, if it's generalist pollinators, or if it's something that we don't have listed, like flies. For example, flies are very important pollinators. We don't have a category for flies, so we just use pollinators instead, and it attracts songbirds. So I'll leave it at that. It is resistant to erosion because it's a rocky slope and it's all the rocks hold everything in place. It's resistant to wind, everything's small, low to the ground, and a few other things. Again, I'm not going to do it all. I'm going to save this and continue editing. Now I'm going to upload the photos and show you what this is all about. So I've chosen my photo from my drive here. So it's RG April 2025. The plants in this photo are, let's see, I've got to refresh my memory here. It's on my list. So Hesperaloe is one of them. I know that's in the Plant Toolbox. So I start typing Hesperaloe, and there it is. Okay. Now, the cultivar I have is clear gold. We don't have that cultivar specifically listed in the Plant Toolbox. I think it's on the Thymus page that it's listed as a cultivar. We just don't have a whole page devoted to that particular cultivar. The other thing I have is an Antirrhinum species that's not in the Plant Toolbox, so I'll add that to my caption. The season is spring. The year the photo was taken is April 2025. So I'm going to just put April. I just default to the first of the month because I don't know exactly what day. 2025 is the year. The time of photo is 9 years old. And the alt text I'm going to copy from my document. So I said alt text is slope, rocky slope softened with colorful flowers and attractive foliage. Put that in, that fits within my 64 characters. My caption is rocky slope planted. And I'm gonna go ahead and mention the antirrhinum that's not in the toolbox. So it includes okay. Attribution is me, and my license is CC by NC2. So there's the first photo added. I press save, and there it is. And you can see it's a fairly involved process for each photo because, again, all those 9 points of data that I need. So I'm going to save this and show you what it looks like now. So now we have this. This is actually occurring in the Plant Toolbox now, or in the design gallery, Scott's Rock Garden. There's all the information, what to look for, horticultural points, and then there's my first picture. And there's the antirrhinum, which is not in the Plant Toolbox. The Hesperaloe is up here, and there's Hesperaloe there. If I click on this, it'll go right to the page on Hesperaloe. And if I scroll down, there's Scott's Rock Garden. So you can see this plant in the following landscape. So we're going back here. And there are some other plants that I need to add. This is the Thymus cultivar that I have in the garden. And there's some other things I need to put in to complete this. But I think I've given you an idea of what it takes to build this design gallery. And this is just one photo in one season. Ideally, I'd like to show pictures of this same rock garden in summer, fall, and winter as well, to show how those plants behave throughout the season.
So, and just to clarify, Scott, that background with what you were just showing us is how things get added, but people who just go to the Plant Toolbox to view the design gallery, they won't be able to do this. They're going to have to give you these images, and you'll be the one doing the uploading.
That's right. Either I'll do it, or I have a wonderful team of Extension Master Gardener volunteers who help me out on this. And so either they'll be doing it or I'll be doing it. But yeah, so this is what people see. All that kind of behind the scenes business is something we see only when we're uploading it. So the landscape theme is rock garden because that's what I said it was the landscape theme. There's the landscape location. It attracts bees. It's resistant to wind. So that's the process. And like I say, it's a bit of an involved process, but it's if I'm given all the information that I need, it goes pretty quickly because it's basically a cut and paste. I paste the text in here. I know what the plants are. I can just, again, type them in and call them up in that menu from the Plant Toolbox. So it's pretty easy to do. And I encourage folks, especially folks with extension demonstration gardens, to really get their gardens here into the design gallery. And you don't have to have it all done at once. Like, for example, if you start now, you can take some pictures of the garden in the summertime, and you can come back and add, or rather I will add for you, the pictures in the fall or in the winter or next spring. So you don't have to have everything complete right this minute to get started. I need at least one photo to get started. And of course, I need all this information to get started. But I encourage folks to use this because of the fact that this gives your demonstration garden exposure 24/7 worldwide. Another feature that it's not visible at the moment is the link to the public gardens map. We had some technical issues with the old map. The new map is up and running, and I will be adding in the design galleries a link to the public gardens map, which is a Google map that shows public gardens throughout the state. And again, it's a way of giving your garden exposure. If people are looking around, well, what gardens are here in the Piedmont? What can I go see on a weekend? Well, this would be a way of getting gardens exposed that way. And there's a link from the public gardens map right back to the design gallery page. So if you have a design gallery page, it's great to also have that link to the map and vice versa.
So there's a
yeah,
couple of questions in chat.
sure.
And first is, so you've been showing us the background, of what happens, the magic behind the scenes that gets somebody's demonstration garden on the site. But what if an agent or master gardener volunteers wanted their demo garden to be in the design gallery? What do they need to send you? And
Well,
do you have a template or a list of those things that could be shared?
Yeah, I do. I do have basically a template which has all this information and has all those choices for the filters that I showed you. There's a big long list of filters. I have all those choices that they can then just select those. So what they need to do is just send me an email and say that this is what they need the template for the design gallery, and I'll send it to them, and then they can start assembling the data, assembling the photos, put it all into a folder. The easiest way to do that is to put it on the shared drive and then share it with me, and then I have access to it and I can work with it.
Okay. Is there a specific email address you would like people to contact you?
Yeah, it's what is it? It's szona@ncsu.edu.
All right. I'm going to drop that in the.
Yeah, it was on my slideshow, but if people didn't see the slideshow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, we apologize again for the confusion when things got started.
Any other questions?
There was a question too about, is this likely to always be this way, like where people would send you stuff or you and your team and that would get it uploaded, or do you foresee a time in the future where people would actually upload their own information? There'd be an interface for that.
I would love it for, people to be able to upload it themselves, but that will be maybe sometime in the future. Right now, this is, I think, the best way and the most secure way of doing it is to have my team do the uploading.
Yeah.
But maybe in the future it'll change.
And a question about the template that you have, could it be turned into a Google form?
I suppose I could, couldn't I? Yeah. Right now, yeah, it's I have it on my drive and I just share it with anybody who wants a link, but I suppose I could make it into a form. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good idea.
Okay, more questions about, is there a minimum or maximum of naming the plants in an individual picture? Yeah, I guess like a character limit or a word limit if you've got a bunch of plants.
As far as I know, I have not bumped up against a limit. So although there are limits in the alt text and character limits in the caption, I don't think there are limits to, the links down here to plants in the toolbox. Now, it should be fairly obvious. I prefer that you link to the obvious plants in the photo. There are lots of little plants in this photo that you really can't see from this particular photo, and therefore I wouldn't bother putting links to the plants down here if you can't see it up here. But you can see the thyme, you can see the antirrhinum, you can see the hesperaloe, And there are a few other things I need to add in that you can see here. But yeah, I don't know of any upper limit to the number of plants that we can list, but again, they should be things that you can see in the photo.
Good, good. And Debbie has a question that I'm sure is going to apply to several of our county demonstration gardens. She says, my demonstration pollinator garden is big and has multiple beds. I would probably have to just zero in on certain plant groupings or combinations because it would be really difficult to see the plants if the picture showed the entire bed, like a really large area. Is this acceptable? So
Yeah, in fact, we have in the design gallery, we have for example, the Juniper Level Botanical Garden. We have about 4 or 5 pages devoted to various parts of that garden. So Debbie could do, one particular bed, maybe it's a dry bed that, dry, drought tolerant plants, or another one, maybe a shade bed. So yeah, you could subdivide your garden and give me, and we could do design galleries for subdivisions of the garden.
excellent. And is there a way to, I think Jennifer, there's a question from Jennifer, says, is there a plant schematic to see clearly which plants are in the landscape? So I guess that would have to be submitted by the agent or volunteers who are sending you all the rest of the information about the garden. If somebody had a schematic that laid out the
Yeah.
plants, would that be able to be part of what's
Yeah,
on
in
there?
fact, on some of the design galleries, why don't I just show you some while I've got my screen share? We actually do have the plans. So here's,
Oh, great.
they have a plan, and this is great. I love this. And it's not required, but if you have a plan, by all means, include it. That's a great thing to include. Oh, and look, this one actually has the link already. I put the link in for the Botanic Garden, the Public Gardens map. So if I click on this, so I hope it works. Oh, it works. Yay. So this is the Public Gardens map, and this has, so if I get rid of some of these other things, we can show just the extension demonstration gardens that are on this Public Gardens map. And when you clicked on this, you can then zoom in on a particular garden, and there's the garden. It comes up. Oh, here it is over here. And there's the link back to the Plant Toolbox Design Gallery. So that's how it all works when it's working right. So yay. And so I will definitely, if you have a public demonstration garden, I'll definitely add it to the map so that you also have a pin on the map.
Fantastic.
Any other questions?
There was a comment or a question from Wanda, but I'm not sure at what point it said, would love to see it on the Google Drive. So I'm not sure at what point in the conversation that came in. So I'm not 100% sure if she's referring to having the template on a Google form that we talked about.
Maybe that's
so.
it. Yeah.
Just scrolling back through to see if we've missed any of the questions.
We do have a question from Debbie.
Thank you.
I'll read it. Once a garden is posted in the design gallery, is there some way for someone looking at that garden on the website to download and or print a list of the various plants, descriptions, and photos in that garden?
The short answer is no. I mean, you could do it, but it actually would take a bit of, it would be rather fiddly to do it. If you have a website, we have, like in the one I was just showing you, the Buncombe County, they have their website. So, if you have your website with your list of plants, we can certainly link to that. There's not a way of downloading the complete, kind of inventory of all the plants that are in these photos. Not an automated way of doing that.
Got it. Do we have any more questions?
Scott,
Yeah.
you sent me a one-page criteria, but it sounds to me like you have something more for the garden sending photos in. But it sounds to me like the template is there's a different thing other than the one-page criteria page that you sent me. So there's more information that we need to submit more pictures to you other than that? Because on that one page, there's nothing about like, do you want a whole plants, blooms, a close-up of blooms, or what kind of photos you actually would like to see, or if you have a preference at all about that.
Yeah, well, we do. Yeah, because, for example, if I just use this photo here that's on the page here, we want to see plants in a design. We don't want individual close-ups of the plant, the portrait of the plant sort of thing. That belongs in the Plant Toolbox, and that's fine for the Plant Toolbox page, but not for the Design Gallery page. For the Design Gallery page, we want to see plants fulfilling a design function, whatever that function may be. So yeah, we do have kind of criteria. Now, we want beautiful, perfect lighting. We want it all. We would like the most beautiful photos possible. But I realize that not all of us are professional photographers, and we kind of make do with what we have. And most people can take a decent photo, and you don't need specialized equipment. Any smartphone will take a perfectly good photo to use here. But in terms of criteria, yeah, I don't have a specific list of the criteria. It's sort of depends on the garden and what the intent is, what design criteria are being demonstrated.
Okay, that's reasonable.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go ahead and.
Oh, there was a question just popped in about some photos are landscape orientation and some are portrait. Is there a preference?
No preference at all. Whatever works best for the garden.
And I wanted to follow up, Scott. So folks that are listening, if they would like to start this process of having their demonstration garden featured in the design gallery, they'll email you and you'll send them back the template.
That's right.
So they can start collecting the images and information about their garden. And then you mentioned you would give them a link, I believe, to a Google Drive folder for them to upload that.
Well, they could just put it in their folder and then send me the link.
Share the folder to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the easiest way.
But Google Drive is the preferred way to share.
Yeah, I think it's certainly the easiest way. Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a question just for clarification about whether, I believe the question was about having access to the NC State Google Drive, but you should be able to work with them on that by providing them a link or them giving you a link to a folder on their drive. But I do believe it will require people to have a Google account, not an NC State Google account, but to create a Google Drive folder where they can share images to you, they'll need to have a Google account.
I believe that's correct. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that's free.
If somebody does not have a Google account, there are other ways of sharing folders like Dropbox or YouSendIt or some other file sharing services, but Google Drive is sort of the easiest one. All right. Well, I hope I hear from lots of people with lots of design galleries to upload. I don't know what sort of work I'm getting myself into here.
What's your kind of typical turnaround time once people get the information to you?
It might take a week or two before it gets live.
Fantastic. And once it's live, does it also generate a QR code for each one of the individual design galleries?
Gosh, you know what? I don't know. Let me go quick look.
See one. I clicked on one quickly.
No, there's no QR codes for the design galleries. Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that might be something to look into.
Might well be, yeah.
With our extension IT folks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. And as you said, we'd love to see every one of our extension demonstration gardens featured here. And then that would be a great way to just showcase the gardens across the state and the work you're doing and give people inspiration and design ideas and show them great plants that do well in North Carolina, growing in different sites across the state. So appreciate everybody who is part of your team, Scott, and appreciate your leadership of this and the work you're doing to help everyone learn about plants and using plants in our landscapes and just getting the word out about the work that's happening across the state with Extension.
All right. Well, it was my pleasure.
May I ask one question, please? This is Ashley.
Sure.
So I'm a Master Gardener volunteer, so I feel like this is a great program oriented towards our admin and our extension agency, and this is great information. Now, when I'm working with the public and I'm sharing the Plant Toolbox, where can you walk me through finding the link to, because we live in a resort kind of travel area, and so I'd like to show them the gardens in our area as well as across the state as they're traveling. Can you walk me through that, how to get to that link on the Plant Toolbox? Because I frequently share the Plant Toolbox and I want to see if they're
Are you thinking about the public gardens map? Is that what you're thinking about?
as they come and walk through our gardens that say the Ask a Master Gardener table and whatnot, we're able to communicate with them and say, oh, you were interested in this plant. Here's the link on the Plant Toolbox. Here are some other suggestions. Here are some examples of coastal gardens, that sort of thing. But can you direct me to the map that shows all the gardens? Okay. Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to share again
that would be great, because I know they found us because they're standing in front of us.
Yeah.
But I would also like them to visit others across the state as they move home or, travel.
So this is the public gardens in North Carolina. Can you all see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yeah, but how did you get there?
Okay, well, I used the link that was there in the Buncombe County demonstration garden page, but this is, if you were to search Google Maps, this is what you would search for, public gardens in North Carolina. It's also on the Extension Gardener page, I believe. Let me just...
So I go to Google and I click public gardens.
If you go to Google Maps, and click that. Or I'm trying to think, I thought it was over here on the... No.
So I'm logged into the Plant Toolbox for North Carolina and I clicked home.
Yeah.
And I see featured plants, because when I just Googled public gardens in North Carolina, 5 locations came up, and I know that your map had 20. I mean, Elizabethan Gardens came up, 2 came up in our area, but then only 3 came up, Sarah P. Duke, Juniper Level Botanical. Yeah. So
I think, let's see.
Yeah,
we need to put a link for this.
I think that link you're referencing, Scott, is only included in the design galleries for extension demonstration gardens, because I see where you were on the Plant Toolbox, you go to design gallery and then you click on one of the gardens that is an extension demonstration garden, like the Buncombe County Extension Demonstration Garden. You'll see that link that says public gardens map under their address. That'll get you to the map that you were just looking at.
Right, but actually it's not just demo gardens that will have the link to the public gardens map. For example, Sarah P. Duke Gardens, I think that they'll have a link on the map if they have a design gallery. Any garden that's a public garden that has a design gallery will also get a link to the map.
So I think you're talking about a reverse engineering. They have to know where they're going to find where to go. Where I'm wondering if there's a link on the home page for the North Carolina Extension Gardener Plant Toolbox that someone can open it. Because when I go to the home page now, I say, okay, there are featured plants. There's the design gallery, and it has all the different themed gardens.
I tell you what, I'm going to put a link there, because you're right. There should be a link there.
I'm
not sure. It may not be right up there on I'm thinking where I can get it. See, I can't edit this part here. What I can do is Maybe stick it over here on one of these sidebars. I'll be able to put it in there.
That would be great. Thank you for hearing me out.
Yeah, like here, the Extension Gardener sites, maybe I can add the map there, the public garden map. But you're right, it should be there, and that makes a great deal of sense. So I will put a link there. Thanks for bringing that to my attention.
Thank you.
All righty. Well, that draws us to a close. Scott, thank you so much to you and your team. It's a true asset, the Plant Toolbox. It's amazing. We encourage everyone to be using it and sharing it as widely as you can, and enjoy those many features that you saw today. Again, thank you so much, Scott. We hope everyone has a good rest of the day. Take care, everyone.